Logan Paul, the influencer turned businessman, is responding to accusations that his energy drink is unsafe for children.
If you've been on YouTube lately, you might have noticed kids freaking out over Prime.
Logan Paul, he's no stranger to controversy.
There's a new warning for parents and kids about energy drinks. Maybe you've seen Prime Energy on social media.
The drink is getting so much negative attention, schools are actually banning it.
It's just like the most sugary drink that doesn't have sugar in it. Then you look at the sodium level, it's like 1,000 milligrams.
Are you guys targeting children?
Let me ask you something real fast. Do you remember when you couldn't even walk into a store and find Prime sitting on the shelf? I'm talking wiped out aisles, limit signs taped everywhere, kids holding bottles like they just scored a rare Pokemon card. Not long ago, Prime wasn't just a drink, it was a flex. It was a badge. And right in the middle of that storm were Logan Paul and KSI, two internet heavyweights who understand one thing better than almost anyone online: hype. Back in 2022, the influencer world was on fire. TikTok was shaping trends overnight, YouTube rivalries were turning into full-on boxing events, and fans weren't just watching creators anymore. They were investing in them emotionally and financially. So when Logan and KSI said they were teaming up, people didn't even pause to ask what they were selling. The product almost didn't matter. The names alone were enough to move mountains. Prime officially dropped as a hydration drink. That was the label. But let's be real, the label wasn't the magic. This wasn't about electrolytes or ingredients. This was about identity. Neon colors, bold fonts, bottles that looked like they came straight out of Fortnite. The packaging didn't whisper, it shouted. It felt like something designed to live on TikTok feeds and YouTube thumbnails. The bottle wasn't just a bottle, it was content you could hold in your hand. And here's where it got clever. Prime wasn't marketed like some basic sports drink sitting quietly in a fridge. It was pushed like merch, limited drops, exclusive flavors, restocks teased through videos, new versions.
Please stay calm, please stay orderly. We're gonna get you your Prime, but you gotta
popping up and disappearing like in-game skins. If you didn't grab it fast, you missed out. And that feeling, that urgency, that's what turned a simple drink into a cultural moment. Every drop triggered the same reaction, straight up panic buying. The psychology behind it wasn't complicated. When everyone wants something and you can't get it, you want it even more. That effect hits harder when you're young. It hits even harder when TikTok keeps pushing clips saying this is what everyone's drinking. Scarcity plus social pressure is a wild combo. Parents were driving across entire cities just to find one bottle. Kids were flipping Prime for $20, $30, even $50 each. Hydration turned into a status move, not because it tasted life-changing, not because it reinvented sports drinks, but because everybody else wanted it. And once something becomes a flex, logic checks out. Prime blew up in schools. Some schools even banned it, which only made the hype stronger. The minute something gets restricted, it feels exclusive. Logan Paul and KSI didn't step back from the chaos. They leaned in. Big sponsorships started stacking up. Ultimate Fighting Championship partnerships, Arsenal FC deals, Prime bottles showing up in locker rooms and arenas. At that point, it wasn't just influencer merch anymore. It had crossed into mainstream culture. News outlets treated it like a social phenomenon. Viral clips showed kids arguing over bottles. Entire shelves cleared in minutes. From the outside, it looked like a billion-dollar brand was being born right in front of everyone's eyes. But here's what most people didn't slow down to think about. The hype wasn't coming from deep product loyalty. It was powered by controlled scarcity. Prime didn't look rare because demand magically exploded. It looked rare because supply was tight on purpose. Limited drops created urgency, and artificial urgency works until it doesn't. Eventually supply catches up.
Ooh, smells a bit high.
What is that flavour you got there?
Tropical punch, it says.
Oh, Jesus.
Loosely. You've just come from the Maldives.
No, it's like swallowing perfume. What is that? I'll send it to Nigella to cook her pork ribs in.
Well, so out of 10, what are you going to give Prime?
Yeah, it's like the sort of dregs of a sort of Gina D'Acampo tiramisu. You know, the little runny bits at the end.
When that happens, the illusion fades. But before that shift hit, Prime made a move that quietly set up its next wave of controversy. They launched Prime Energy. Same bold branding, same bright colors, same shelf vibe. Just one major difference: 200 milligrams of caffeine per can. That's not light hydration, that's serious energy. Here's where things got complicated. complicated. Visually, Prime Energy looked almost identical to Prime Hydration. Same logo, same branding, same overall feel, and most kids weren't analyzing labels. They just saw Prime. Suddenly, younger teens were grabbing cans packed with caffeine levels designed for adults. Schools started raising concerns. Parents began asking questions. Health professionals weighed in. Logan publicly stated it was meant for adults, which led to an obvious question. If it's designed for adults, why does it visually blend in with a product popular among younger fans? This was Prime trying to balance two lanes at once. A hydration drink loved by younger audiences, an energy drink with a similar aesthetic and the same hype machine behind it. That overlap is when regulators, attorneys, and families started paying close attention. Once the conversation shifts from hype to health concerns, the energy changes fast. Still, at that moment, Prime looked unstoppable. Shelves were fuller. Revenue reports looked massive. Social media engagement was through the roof. On paper, everything screamed success. But here's the deeper issue. Prime wasn't built on long-term habits. It wasn't built on taste loyalty. It wasn't built on deep trust. It was built on momentum.
Earlier this year, a weird string of rumors started floating around because someone sued us saying that Prime had forever chemicals, like more than you were supposed to drink in a lifetime, whatever. I made a TikTok debunking it, but regardless, the rumor still got out there, and low-key, the damage is done. And now, even though we're in this lawsuit, whether it's true or not, people think it. And so the lawsuit got dismissed. The plaintiff does have a chance to amend it, but she's chosen not to. She's coming back with one really weak-ass claim that's probably also going to get dismissed. But it's just an example of people reaching, trying to get attention, make a quick buck on a frivolous lawsuit that actually has no merit or is based in nothing, and we're not going to settle. Oh, the caffeine one, where plaintiffs said there was a crazy amount of caffeine that didn't meet what we said on our label in Prime Energy, which is 18 plus, and has 200 milligrams of caffeine.
And momentum is powerful until it slows down. Momentum always runs out. Most people don't notice it while it's happening. One day it feels unstoppable. The next day, it's quiet. And that's exactly where things began to unravel for Prime. Once the hype cooled off, once shelves stopped being empty, once kids shifted their attention to whatever TikTok told them to care about next, all that remained was the actual business underneath. And that's when reality stepped in, because when Prime stopped being impossible to find, people finally started asking the questions they never bothered with before. What's really inside this drink? Who's producing it? What happens if the sales numbers don't live up to the early promises? When the spotlight moves from hype to spreadsheets, the energy changes fast. This is the point where the story stops being funny. Hype can distract people for a long time, but it can't hide contracts, it can't hide invoices, and it definitely can't hide court filings. Let's start with something simple.
And health officials asking the FDA to investigate the energy drink Prime.
Are you guys targeting children?
That's such a heavy claim.
Senator Chuck Schumer is calling on the FDA to investigate the energy drink Prime.
Taste. When Prime was rare, people collected it. They posed with it. They flexed it. But once it became easy to grab, people actually drank it. And outside of the hardcore supporters, reviews weren't exactly glowing. Some described the flavor as overly sweet. Others said it tasted artificial. A few compared it to perfume or melted candy mixed with chemicals. That kind of feedback matters more than people think. A real beverage brand survives on repeat buyers, not first-time curiosity purchases. If someone tries your drink once and never comes back, you don't have loyalty. You have a moment, and moments fade. Taste alone didn't create the storm, though. Plenty of average drinks survive quietly. The bigger issue was scale. Prime's manufacturing agreements were built on one huge assumption: demand would keep climbing forever. Factories expanded, suppliers locked in long-term deals, warehouses filled up fast. Everything was structured for constant growth. But when the growth slowed, those commitments didn't just disappear. One of the biggest legal clashes came from Refresco, a major production partner. They filed a lawsuit reportedly seeking around $67 million, claiming Prime committed to massive order volumes and later pulled back when sales cooled. That single dispute alone carried serious weight, and it wasn't the only one. Ingredient suppliers also raised concerns over unpaid invoices. More legal back and forth surfaced around pricing terms. quality standards and contracts that made sense during peak hype, but looked risky once the numbers shifted. Deals signed in a rush suddenly became pressure points. Then another layer entered the picture: health concerns. Some parents filed legal claims after young consumers reportedly experienced symptoms like rapid heartbeat and anxiety, allegedly connected to Prime Energy. Attorneys argued that the branding made it
New flavor Prime Energy Dream Pop, the flavor that'll make you cream in your dream.
Flavor that'll make you cream in your dream.
easy for younger buyers to confuse the energy drink with the hydration version. Visually, they were nearly identical. Same bold colors, same logo, same shelf presence. If you're 12 years old, you're not studying caffeine labels. You're reacting to branding. On top of that, Prime also faced claims involving PFAS, sometimes referred to as forever chemicals, allegedly detected in certain flavors. Whether those cases ultimately succeed in court or not almost becomes secondary, because once a brand popular with families gets linked to words like chemical exposure, perception shifts immediately. Parents don't wait for legal conclusions. They move on. Regulators began reviewing the situation. Public officials sent inquiries. Some schools chose to ban the product entirely. The brand that once dominated youth culture started facing resistance in the same spaces that made it famous. But here's the part that hit hardest. Sales didn't just dip, they dropped sharply. In the UK, reports suggested revenue declined by roughly 70% year over year. Profits reportedly fell by more than 90%. In the US, retailers began discounting inventory just to clear space. Multi-packs that once carried premium pricing were now sitting in clearance sections. Not because people were furious, but because they were indifferent. And indifference is brutal. Hate still drives clicks. Controversy still sparks discussion. But apathy? That's silence. TikTok stopped pushing Prime clips at the same volume. School flex culture moved on to the next trend. The resale market dried up almost overnight. What once looked like a cultural movement started to resemble leftover inventory from last season. Meanwhile, the long-term expenses stayed. Locked in place. Factory contracts, staffing, distribution networks, warehousing costs. Those bills don't shrink just because the timeline changed. This is what happens when virality gets mistaken for durability. Viral spikes feel explosive.
Really fun game that makes you money.
A fun game that earns you money. How much did you guys make from CryptoZoo?
I lost around $50,000 in CryptoZoo.
I lost $40,000.
I lost around $15,000 US dollars.
I lost $25,000.
$120,000. $500,000 Australian, which
they look powerful, but they don't guarantee staying power. Prime built its infrastructure for a future where demand kept accelerating. Instead, it leveled out. And when a brand is structured for endless growth but built on short-term momentum, the landing can feel heavy. The hype machine was loud, the rise was dramatic, but once the noise faded, what remained wasn't just a drink, it was a business facing the weight of its own expectations. What's wild is this: Prime didn't crash in the dramatic way people expected. It didn't disappear overnight. It wasn't banned across the country. Regulators didn't shut the doors and flip the lights off. It just slowly bled out, publicly, expensively. A brand that once sold out in minutes now struggles to clear shelves. A bottle that once felt exclusive now sits quietly next to drinks nobody asked for. And here's the uncomfortable truth: this wasn't caused by one single mistake. It wasn't just lawsuits. It wasn't just taste complaints. It wasn't even just the caffeine debates. Prime's real issue was deeper. It built everything on momentum instead of fundamentals. And momentum always runs out. Now the real question becomes, was this inevitable? Or could Prime have survived if it played the long game differently? Here's what most people miss: Prime didn't collapse because of one controversy. It weakened because it never owned a category. That's the billion-dollar mistake hiding in plain sight. Look at beverage empires that actually lasted. Red Bull didn't try to outshine soda brands. It defined the modern energy drink lane. Gatorade didn't compete with cola. It locked down sports performance hydration. Liquid Death didn't battle traditional bottled
versus Lunchables.
With Lunchly, you get double the amount of liquid.
Prime has no sugar added, more electrolytes, and more B vitamins.
Crunch Bar. Whoa. Feastables Crunch Bar. Our pizza uses real cheese. Theirs, as it says on their box, is mozzarella pasteurized prepared cheese product. They can't even call it real cheese. Ooh. We're also 30 less calories, 3 less grams of fat, and 8 less
water quietly. It created a bold, anti-plastic, personality-driven space. Prime did the opposite. It stepped into one of the most competitive categories in retail, the sports drinks, and tried to out-hype companies companies with decades of trust, distribution muscle, and scientific credibility. It didn't win on research. It didn't win on price. It didn't clearly win on taste. It tried to win on attention. That strategy works online. It doesn't always hold up in grocery aisles. Attention is rented. Brand equity is owned. Prime's real product wasn't hydration, it was identity. Kids didn't grab Prime because it was proven superior. They grabbed it because it signaled something. It said you were plugged into internet culture. You understood YouTube rivalries. You were tapped into TikTok waves. That kind of cultural currency is powerful, but it's fragile. Identity shifts fast. The second Prime stopped being rare, it stopped feeling special. The second schools restricted it, it stopped feeling rebellious. The second parents raised concerns, it stopped feeling safe. When identity cracks, there's nothing left underneath unless the product stands on its own. That's where Prime got stuck. It couldn't fully pivot into a serious sports science brand without losing the audience that made it explode. It couldn't lean harder into younger fans without triggering more scrutiny. It couldn't reposition toward adults without facing skepticism. It was trapped between lanes, too playful for elite athletes, too intense for cautious parents, too generic for long-term loyalty. That's the risk of building around personalities instead of principles. When hype fades, the product has to speak, and Prime never fully explained why someone needed it. It only explained why they wanted it right now. That's why the shift felt sudden. The moment shelves stayed stocked, the illusion cracked. People stopped racing to stores. TikTok moved on, the resale market vanished. The flex culture evaporated. Prime had to survive on repeat purchases instead of viral moments. And repeat purchases require trust, habit, and preference, not just excitement. Prime wasn't punished for being terrible. It was exposed for being temporary. And here's the part that stings. This might have been avoidable if Prime had carved out a distinct category instead of fighting inside someone else's. If hydration and energy had been visually separated more clearly. If adult-focused products had different branding signals. If taste and formulation had been prioritized early instead of assuming hype would last forever. The outcome could look different, but hype is addictive. When products sell out instantly, it feels unstoppable. When headlines label you a billion-dollar brand, it feels permanent. When fans treat bottles like collectibles, it feels like you cracked the code. But business doesn't care how loud the moment was. It only cares how long it lasts. Right now, Prime still exists. You can still buy it. You'll still see sponsorship placements. Logos still appear at events. But culturally, the fever has cooled. It went from flex to meme, from must-have to markdown, from status symbol to case study. And that's the real lesson. You can launch a massive brand on hype. You just can't maintain it on hype alone. Prime didn't implode overnight. It slowly lost oxygen as attention drifted elsewhere. And that's why this story matters. Influencer brands aren't disappearing. More are coming. The question isn't whether hype works. It clearly does. The question is whether the next wave will build something deeper underneath it, or repeat the same cycle all over again. In fact, there are more influencer brands launching right now than ever before, and a lot of them are walking straight into the same trap Prime fell into. They're confusing virality with real value. They're mistaking short-term attention for long-term trust. They're treating noise like it's the same thing as fundamentals. Prime made one thing crystal clear. You can out-hype the market for a moment. You cannot outrun reality forever. And when reality shows up, it doesn't check your follower count first. It checks your foundation. This is bigger than one drink. The influencer economy moves fast. Trends flip overnight. One viral clip can build a product, one bad quarter can shake it. That speed feels powerful, but it also hides weaknesses. When demand explodes instantly, it creates the illusion that you've built something permanent. But permanence isn't measured in sellout drops. It's measured in repeat customers. It's measured in trust. It's measured in whether people still care once the novelty fades. Prime proved how strong internet momentum can be. Two massive creators, built-in fan bases, viral marketing loops, scarcity tactics that kept people chasing bottles. It was a masterclass in capturing attention, but attention is a spark. It's not a structure. And here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of influencer-led brands are built backward. They start with hype and try to reverse engineer substance later. They assume loyalty comes automatically because followers exist. But following a personality isn't the same as committing to a product. One is emotional. emotional, the other is practical, and when money leaves someone's wallet, practical wins every time. The real challenge isn't launching loud, it's lasting quietly. Ask yourself this: if you remove the personalities, does the product still stand? If the creators stopped posting tomorrow, would customers still reach for it? That's the real test of a brand. Not the first month, not the launch week, the third year, the fifth year, the moment when nobody is forcing attention toward it anymore. So what do you think? Was Prime always a ticking time bomb built on influencer ego and short-term momentum? Or did Logan Paul and KSI simply miscalculate how fast the internet moves? Was this inevitable from the beginning? Or could it have evolved into something more stable with a different strategy? Maybe this was just the internet doing what it does best: elevate something, obsess over it, then replace it. The cycle is ruthless. Trends don't retire gracefully, they get swapped out. Or maybe the warning signs were there from day one. A product positioned as a flex instead of a necessity. Scarcity used as fuel instead of flavor and function. Branding that blurred lines between audiences. Massive scale built on the assumption that momentum would never cool. Those are risks, and risks feel invisible when everything is going up. This story isn't just about Prime. It's about the next wave of influencer brands lining up behind it. Energy drinks, supplements, clothing lines, tech gadgets, skincare, snacks. The formula looks familiar. Big personality, big launch, big claims, big moment. But the real question is always the same. What happens when the moment ends? Because moments always end. What survives are systems, distribution, trust, product quality, clear positioning, brands that own a space instead of renting attention. That's the difference between a spike and a legacy. Prime showed how fast you can rise in the influencer era. It also showed how exposed you are when the tide shifts. The internet is a powerful accelerator. It can build you at lightning speed, but it doesn't protect you from gravity. So where do you stand on this? Was Prime doomed by design, or was it just a case of growing too fast, too loud, without tightening the bolts underneath? Do you think influencer brands can truly build lasting empires, or are they all just riding waves that eventually crash? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments. I read through them and I'm curious to see how you see this playing out. If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure to like the video so more people can see it. Share it with someone who's been watching this, someone who's whole influencer brand wave unfold. And subscribe if you want more deep dives into internet power, online money, and the turning points where digital empires start to crack. This story isn't over. The next move could shift everything again. I'll see you on the next one.